the privilege and the pleasure to have had our State Chancellor with us all day. And so, welcome to Chancellor Oakley and members of his staff who are here today. He's had a full day of visiting with our staff, our faculty. Okay. Give me instructions. Is it? No, I didn't, no. So if it's red, it's on.
Yeah, Dre.
Do I need to start all over? I will. Okay. Good afternoon, and welcome to this afternoon or evening with our State Chancellor, Eloy Oakley. He's been with us all day visiting with faculty, with staff, with students, and he's also had a tour of our campus. Chancellor Oakley visits California community colleges on a regular basis as part of his listening tour, and there are 114 of us. So we are really happy to have him with us today. I want to give special thanks to staff from the Chancellor's office for working with us and also for joining us today. But I also have to give special recognition to our own staff in our communications department, headed by Luz Martin. Thank you very much for her and her staff for all the work that they've done. And I also want to thank members of the California Community College Board of Governors who are with us today, Pamela Haynes and Jennifer Perry. We also have had the pleasure today of having 5 of our own trustees participate in today's activity. Our board president, Robert Miller, our other members, Peter Hasland, Marsha Coninger, Jonathan Aboud, and Craig Nielsen. I'll introduce Chancellor Oakley in a moment, but first I want to give some instructions regarding our Q&A portion of the town hall following Chancellor Oakley's remarks. Please hold your questions until the end of his presentation, and microphones are set up, as you can see on the platform below. This event is being live streamed, so you must ask your question at the microphone so we can make sure you're recorded. Behavior in violation of our code of conduct will not be tolerated. And now to introduce our State Chancellor, whom I've known for quite a while. He grew up in Florence, Firestone area of South Los Angeles in the mid-70s and early 80s, the son of a U.S. citizen father who was schooled in Mexico and a mother who was a Mexican immigrant. After serving 4 years in the Army, he enrolled at Golden West College, a California community college, and transferred to the University of California, Irvine, where he earned his bachelor's degree in environmental analysis and design and a master's degree in business administration. In 2007, he was appointed superintendent president of the Long Beach Community College District, one of the most diverse community colleges in this nation, and he became increasingly well known for providing statewide and national leadership on improving educational outcomes of historically underrepresented students. He is so committed to doing that. Partnering with the Long Beach Unified School District and Cal State Long Beach, Chancellor Oakley helped form the nationally recognized Long Beach College Promise. It was the second of its type in the state. The James Irvine Foundation recognized him with its Leadership Award in 2014. The same year, former Governor Jerry Brown appointed him to the University of California Board of Regents. Oakley has served as chancellor for our colleges since December of 2016. He is an ardent advocate of the Vision for Success, which he will review in his remarks. Chancellor Oakley's focus on putting students first has been acknowledged through his appointments to the California Forward Leadership Council, the California Economic Summit, the Fair Shake Commission, the California Community College Commission on the Future, and the American Association of Community Colleges, our national organization, and the 21st Century Commission on the Future of Community Colleges. When he was growing up in South Central Los Angeles during a time of rising crime and dwindling job opportunities, Chancellor Oakley recalls that the expectations of going to college for children from a Mexican-American family like his were somewhere between slim and none. He found his opportunity at Golden West College in Huntington Beach, setting him on a path to where he is today, advocating for students every single day. And he is devoted to preserving this path for others. Please join me in welcoming our State Chancellor, Eloy Oakley.
I'm going to take you everywhere I go, Helen. That's the best intro I've had so far. Good evening, Santa Barbara. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for allowing us to spend some time at Santa Barbara City College. Let me begin by, again, echoing the acknowledgments that Dr. Benjamin had previously. I want to thank the staff, the faculty, the amazing students that took us around today. And yes, they are amazing. You should be very proud of the students that you have here at Santa Barbara City College. I want to thank them all, certainly thank the members of the Board of Trustees that I had the pleasure of talking with earlier today. Some of them I've also known for a little while. And of course, I want to give a big and very special thank you to Dr. Helen Benjamin, who decided to take this opportunity on to spend some time with you here at Santa Barbara City College while you search for a new superintendent president. She is one of the treasures that we have had in the community colleges. She continues to fail retirement, but that's okay. That's to our benefit. So thank you, Helen, for all the work that you've done here at Santa Barbara City College. Let me begin by just telling you why we're here. So you met two members of the Board of Governors, Jennifer Perry and Pam Haynes, who are here. But the Board of Governors, about 2.5 years ago, adopted a document that we call the Vision for Success, which is basically a strategic vision, a look forward at what we want to aspire to as a system. And the Board of Governors set forth a very bold vision for the system, some very aggressive goals for the system, and we've been working through those ever since. And so, as part of that vision, we want to come out and spend time with colleges like yours who are doing critical work for the communities that you serve and understand how the Vision for Success is supporting the work here, what things we need to think about doing differently, how can we better support communities like Santa Barbara City College. And one of the things that I'm going to get into in the Vision for Success is what brought me to the community colleges. In essence, as you heard, I grew up in a community, a zip code that, last I checked, had less than 3% bachelor's degree attainment. It's a community where higher education wasn't a primary goal, for whatever reason. But it's because of a college like yours that I'm here today. And really, there's no other explanation for it. I am, like many of the students here in Santa Barbara or throughout the state, who may have potential, but that potential isn't realized until they come across the types of faculty and staff that we have here. And because we acknowledge and support and welcome the top 100% of students in our communities, it gives people like me access to the opportunities that I now enjoy. And now my children have that same opportunity and an expectation that they will go to college. And by the way, all four of my kids now, 3 have successfully transferred from the community colleges. 1 is in a dual enrollment program at a community college. So my entire family is grateful for the community college system. As a matter of fact, I joke that my ex-wife attended community college, and my current fiance went to Santa Barbara City College. So it's all in the family, in my household. We're all about community colleges. As a matter of fact, my fiance's mother lives here in Santa Barbara and also attended Santa Barbara City College. She's still waiting for that associate's degree, so we'll have to talk about that later. She's 1 class shy. But anyway, enough about that. So the vision for success. So that's why I'm here. That's why we're here, because colleges like this give so much opportunity to students who may not otherwise find it in the other systems of higher education. And also, you are part of the community. You are a community college. So you are at the epicenter of all the things that are going on in this community, whether it be housing insecurity, food insecurity, challenges with race and ethnicity. You all are at the epicenter of those issues. And we have the privilege as community colleges of being the place where people come in the community who trust this space and who look to us to lead. Look to us to lead with the kinds of courageous conversations that need to happen in this and every community when it comes to the fate and the challenges that our students face. So thank you for taking that on. The one great privilege that we have in the community college system, which is unlike any other system of higher education, is that every single person that comes to work here comes for the same reason: to serve the students of this community. No other system of higher education can say that. There are a lot of great people in all the other systems, but they don't all come for the same reason that you do. You come here to support and to teach and to help students learn and to help them be successful. That is your only mission in life. Whether they're credit students, non-credit students, however they got here, you're here to serve them. So thank you for that. So, the vision for success. Let me begin by, hitting the wrong button here, by just giving you a recap of what's going on in the system, our California Community College system. And some of you may know, but some of you may not, that we now have 115 colleges, actually working on the 116th now as we speak. That will be in Madera. Nearly one out of every 4 community college students in the country is a California Community College student. That's how large of scale we serve in California. So we've done a wonderful thing in California. We've opened up access to nearly a quarter of all community college students in the country. About 10% of every undergraduate in the country is in the California community colleges. So as you can see, we have a tremendous impact. So where are we right now? In 2017-18, we're serving just under 2.2 million students. You can see that that is down from the height of nearly 2.7 in 2008-2009. Of course, what happened in 2008-2009, we were going down the road of the Great Recession in California. So we haven't quite recovered since. But what was also going on then was a huge bubble of students coming through the K-12 system, which is dissipated. And I'll talk a little bit more about the enrollment challenges that we face going forward. I'm sure you felt them here in Santa Barbara. So we continue to hold steady at around 2.2 million students. Our budgets, I'm happy to say that as of 18-19, our per student funding is the highest it's been in the history of our system, which is great. It's still not nearly enough. And it's still not nearly what our colleges and what our students deserve. So we need to continue to press for that. That still puts us somewhere around 45, 46 in the country in terms of per student funding for community college students. So we have a ways to go. But at least the trend is in the right direction. And we hope to continue to maintain that, even though many believe that we're going into a recession in the next few years. So, the vision for success. The vision for success basically lays out 6 goals. 6 goals that the Board of Governors felt are things that we wanted to intentionally put out there for our system. Now, that doesn't mean that these are the only goals for a college like Santa Barbara City College, but what we wanted to do is have an alignment of goals. Understanding that we work here locally in Santa Barbara, serving the community, the greater Santa Barbara community, but within the context of the state of California. And we want to move our system toward achieving the goals of the state of California. So what are the goals? Sure, these are nothing new to you. We want to increase the number of credentials that students obtain by at least 20%, understanding that more than 65% of the jobs that are being created require some sort of post-secondary credential. So we want to recognize that that is a direct need of our students in order to survive in the economy. We want to increase transfer by 35% to the UC and the CSU, understanding that those two are our biggest public transfer partners, and of course you all have had a nice relationship with UCSB, but we want to give our students as much access to the quality public higher education as possible in California, and we also want to push the CSU and the UC to open up more access to our students. We want to decrease the number of units obtained by our students. So what does that mean? We want to help them get to their educational goal faster. It doesn't mean that we want them to not take courses that they would like in order to expand their horizons, but we want to ensure that the courses that they're taking are actually leading to the outcomes that they desire. You all have been doing a marvelous job of that over the years. Your Express to Success program, the reasons why you were recognized by the Aspen Institute, things of that nature. You have been helping students get to their educational outcome, but we as a state continue to see that as a need. And I'll explain more why in a bit. We want to increase employment. Students come to career education programs with one thing in mind. They want a job. They want a career. So we need to ensure that our programs are leading to employment. And 5 and 6 are, I think, what really drive the vision for success. It's all about equity. We want to reduce and eliminate the equity gaps statewide, and also recognize that there are parts of the state that have had stubborn equity gaps that we need to specifically lean into. Those goals include a series of commitments, which I'm sure are not unfamiliar to a college like Santa Barbara City College. We want to design with the student at the center and in mind. We want to pair high expectations with high support. We're going to focus on evidence-based decision-making. We're going to focus on the student's goals and design backwards from there. And we're going to own our performance, our students' performance. And what do I mean by that? When a student comes to the door at Santa Barbara City College or Golden West College or College of the Redwood or any one of our colleges, on that day, we own their performance. It's easy for us to say that, yes, but if they would have had a better education in K-12, yes, but if they would have had more resources, yes, but if they would have had a 2-parent household, they would be more successful. No. What we're saying is the day that they reach our door, we own them. And we own their performance, and it's up to us to meet them where they're at when they come to us. We don't have the luxury of serving one type of student. We have the luxury and the privilege of serving every type of student. And that is a blessing, and it's also a challenge to us to continue to innovate, continue to adapt to the needs of our students. So those are some of our commitments. So where are we? Goal 1, we still have a ways to go. You can see that the number of students who have been obtaining a credential has been increasing. But as of 17-18, we're at about 127,000, and our goal is nearly 152,000. So we still have work to do. Goal 2, transfer. As you can see, we're making improvements, but it's been slow. Fortunately, there's a lot of good data underneath this. Students who are taking the associate's degree for transfer, that number continues to increase. We now have partnerships with the University of California and with all of the independent colleges and universities to accept the associate's degree for transfer. And so we're making improvements and we're helping students get to those transfer goals. But we still have work to do. And by the way, some of you may be asking, that hashed bar, what does that mean? Those are transfers to institutions that are in-state private or out-of-state institutions. So you can see that number has been going down. There's a reason that number is going down. One is some of those private institutions have closed. Some of you have experienced some of those students coming here to Santa Barbara City College, whether it be Corinthian or ITT. They've been closing. And the other reason is we've been doing a much better job, particularly in California, of educating students on their options. So they're choosing more institutions like ours that are in their best interest and not institutions that are going to leave them with a lot of debt and very little and many broken promises. Where are we on goal 3? Right now, the statewide average is around 91.5 units accumulated per student. That's a lot of units, considering that you only need around 60 to transfer. So that means that a lot of our students are taking units that don't align with their educational goals. So the Board of Governors adopted a goal to get that now down to 79. As you can see, we still have a ways to go. But because of the interventions and the initiatives that have been put into motion, things that you're doing here at Santa Barbara City College, whether it be the Guided Pathways framework or whether it be implementing AB 705, these are things that are going to help reduce that average number of units accumulated. Vision Goal 4, we're doing a little better, increasing the number of students who get a job in their field of study. In 17-18, we're at 71%. The goal is 76%. So we're actually seeing really nice progress toward that goal. And now to the equity goals. So I'm sure it comes as no surprise to you that we have some very significant equity gaps. There are significant equity gaps here in Santa Barbara County. And you see those reflected in the statewide data. You see African Americans and Hispanics in particular lagging behind other racial and ethnic groups that are doing much better. So our goal is in 5 years to cut it by 40% and eliminate the gap within 10 years. And that's statewide. But we recognize that some parts of the state have some very stubborn, long-standing equity gaps. If you look at the map, you can see places like the Inland Empire, the Central Valley, and the far north have had some very significant and stubborn equity gaps. So we have launched several efforts to lean into those communities. I'm proud to say that later this week, on November 8th, Governor Newsom will be announcing a new initiative in the Fresno area to really lean into the Central Valley and begin significantly investing in increasing educational attainment in the Central Valley, which we hope we can replicate in the Inland Empire and the far north. So that gives you a quick rundown of the goals. And I can't imagine that those come as a surprise to you. I'm sure the Board of Trustees for the Santa Barbara Community College District have some variation of these goals for Santa Barbara City College. So what are we doing going forward? What's the work ahead? Chancellor's office, as some of you know, we are located in Sacramento. We have a Board of Governors that's appointed by the governor to oversee the system, understanding that local decisions are made here locally, and you have your elected representatives to handle those. But the work that we're doing going forward is now we're in year 3 of the Guided Pathways framework implementation. We're going to continue to support that effort. We feel that that is a wonderful framework, system-wide, that we can all share similar language, look at the student experience similarly, and begin to work toward improving the pipeline, that student's journey from beginning to end. We're going to continue to implement AB 705. For some of you who are not aware, AB 705 is a law that was recently passed that significantly changed the way we handle placement in transfer level courses. And I know, hearing from the faculty here at Santa Barbara City College, that's something that you're still wrestling with, particularly in math and English. These are the 2 gateway courses to just about any credential that we offer in our system or any system. So it's critical for us to improve that pipeline for students, particularly those students who have not been well represented in those outcomes. And for you all, it's very similar to the situation we have statewide, particularly for Latinx students, first-generation students, low-income students, and Black and African American students. What we're asking is that we take a hard look at that data, understand and reflect on that data, acknowledge that for some students we have been leaving them behind for decades, and then proactively lean into this. While AB 705 is a law that was promulgated and we have to live within the context of that law, we want to continue to work with colleges like yours to look at ways that we can support the classroom, ensure that we've got the right mechanisms, the right interventions in place that are informed by data, that are leading more students to that educational outcome. We want to support and encourage the attainment of local goals. So we want the Board of Trustees for the Santa Barbara Community College District to incorporate the Vision for Success goals into their goal-making process and ensure that we're aligning our work. We want to continue to press for full funding for our system, and our system is funded through the student-centered funding formula, and we know that Santa Barbara City College could use some of those resources, so we're going to continue to push for full funding for our system and increase funding for our system. We want to continue to lead through innovation in teaching and learning, continue to invest in innovating, and most recently, we are working to secure funding for the total cost of attendance. I'm sure those of you who live and work in Santa Barbara understand that there is a huge disparity between wealth and income in communities like this. And the cost of housing, the cost of living is very difficult for our most vulnerable student populations, for our most vulnerable communities. Our students in the California community colleges have had very little access to the Cal Grant system, the state's financial aid program. We want to recognize that, and Senate Bill 291, which we sponsored this last year, recognizes that, and we're asking the legislature and the governor to make changes to the Cal Grant system to provide more support for low-income students to help pay for their cost of attendance. This community has done a wonderful job of eliminating the cost of tuition. I want to thank the Santa Barbara City College Foundation and all of you for the work that you've done to be able to waive tuition for thousands of students. But that is not the full cost of attendance. The cost of attendance is the cost of not having to work 2 and 3 jobs to come to Santa Barbara City College, to be able to go full-time, to be able to pay for child support, to be able to pay for housing. So that is a fundamental issue that we want to address with the state legislature, and we would love your support along the way. And then finally, and certainly not least, we want to deal with one part of equity that we know is important to students every time they walk into a classroom, and that is increasing the diversity of faculty and staff. I realize that when I say that, different people hear different things, so let me try to be as clear as possible. We fundamentally believe that it is good for all students that they be exposed to and are taught by a diverse faculty. Study after study shows that students from across all backgrounds do better when they're taught by a diverse faculty. That doesn't mean that faculty at Santa Barbara City College or any one of our colleges is not supportive and empathetic and understands our students. That's not what I'm saying at all. What I'm saying is that our students, all of our students, do better if we do a better job of diversifying our workforce. So that is an intentional initiative that the Board of Governors has launched, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later. But we are asking colleges like yours to look at the diversity of its workforce, to come up with an intentional plan as how it's going to increase the diversity, and we're going to do everything possible from the state to provide that support, including in the state budget, we're asking for significant investment in full-time faculty hires, but coupled with an intentional approach to increase diversity of faculty and to provide more professional development, to improve our hiring processes, to remove the implicit bias that exists, and understand, folks, that even I walk into a room with biases. We all have biases, and some of those have been ingrained in us for decades. We as Americans try to deal with that all the time. I think we're living in an environment right now where we're being challenged by those biases. We have to address those biases. And I know you here in Santa Barbara, at Santa Barbara City College, have been faced with those challenges of race and ethnicity. You're not alone. Our colleges up and down the state are wrestling with this. The CSU is wrestling with this, and certainly the University of California is wrestling with this. So I take a little bit more time on this issue because I know it's front and center here in this community. What I can tell you is that we are going to be supportive of the faculty and staff who want to take leadership on these issues. We acknowledge that this is a difficult conversation in communities like yours, in every community, and we stand ready to support that conversation in any way we can and ask you to have that intentional conversation. Because it's really for our students. The more comfortable we are with that conversation, the better that we can address these issues, the better our students are able to succeed. In every community in California, community that I came from in Long Beach, community here in Santa Barbara, many of our communities, almost all of our communities, have some form of embedded bias or discrimination that has carried forward year after year after year. So I encourage you to take on that issue, and we will do everything we can, and I know I can speak for the Board of Governors to support that conversation. I mentioned financial aid already. We think that this is a fundamental inequality in the state. Our students, who are the backbone of our workforce, who reflect, we are really the only system of higher education in the state that actually reflects the racial and ethnic makeup of California. Our students deserve more aid. Many eligibility requirements hurt our students the most. Things like age, things like having come to college 1 year out of high school. All these eligibility requirements in the Cal Grant system really penalize students that you serve. And we want to open the door to them in ways that allow them to fully participate in their education without having to worry about how they're going to support their family, how they're going to support themselves in a community with such a high cost of living like yours. If you want to help us with the financial aid conversation, there's a website, totalcostofcollege.com, which you can get more information about. I can say without question that your representatives in Sacramento, Monique Limon and Hannah Beth Jackson, are huge advocates. So continue to support them. Let them know how important this issue is to you so that you can give them the cover they need in Sacramento to push this forward. And by the way, you have a supervisor who used to be in Sacramento, who used to be a homeless student in Doss Williams, who also understands this issue. So we need to continue to empower all of our elected members to push for our students. The The Board of Governors Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Plan. So I mentioned this already. Let me just give you an idea of what is coming, what's in the plan. The Board of Governors expects to adopt the Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Integration Plan, a plan that was a set of recommendations from a task force that was established by the Board of Governors, which was chaired by the president of the statewide academic senate of the California Community Colleges, John Stanskis, and my deputy chancellor, Daisy Gonzalez, who actually went to school here at UCSB, so she knows this community very well. And they're leading this effort to provide information and recommendation to the Board of Governors. As I said, we want everybody to support the 2020-2021 budget proposal, which augments statewide resources for equity, diversity, and inclusion. It calls for $60.4 million in ongoing funding and $16 million in one-time funding, and this is how it's broken down. We want to see increased support for district EEO plans. We want more professional development. We want to look at statewide fellowship pilots so that we can begin to support a pipeline of faculty that will come teach at the California Community Colleges. We want ongoing support for full-time faculty hiring with a direct connection to diverse hiring. We want to modernize the CCC registry, which is basically a job posting tool. And we want additional staff capacity at the Chancellor's office to provide statewide leadership and support these programs, because we know this will not happen overnight. This has to be a sustained effort over time. So, I know I went through that quickly, but let me end by saying this. We have the great privilege of supporting communities like yours. And we have to recognize that our students are going through very challenging times. Think about it. Most of the students who are coming to Santa Barbara City College have grown up in wartime. We have been at war the whole time that they've gone through school. They have come through the Great Recession, where they saw their families struggling, many of them losing their homes. We have moved the goalpost on them. There was a time when we told students if they just get their high school diploma, they can get into the workforce. Those days are gone. We have an entire society now built around either a gig economy or an economy that forces them to continuously change jobs without having any reliable access to health and welfare benefits or retirement. That is a fundamental change from the economy and the workforce that existed before the recession. This is what our students are living. Our students are facing growing housing insecurity, growing food insecurity. There is a reason, a sad reason, why every college tour I do, whether it be in the community colleges, the CSU or the UC, there is a food pantry. Think about that. Think about the fact that we now expect colleges to have a food pantry. What does that say about the world our students are growing up in? And they're having to navigate. That is our fundamental challenge, is to not only empathize with our students, but to fundamentally try to understand the world that they live in and adapt to help them meet those challenges. We have our work cut out for us, but I can't think of a system that is more capable of taking that head on. We were built for that. We were built to be the most adaptive system of higher education in the country. So we're up to this challenge, and I know Santa Barbara City College is up to this challenge. So thank you to all the faculty, staff. Thank you to the students who do just such a wonderful job of taking us around today. Thank you to the community members that live here in Santa Barbara and to the Board of Trustees that serve this community. And I'm happy to answer any of your questions. So thank you. So who wants to be first? Come on up to the microphone. And please introduce yourself.
Testing.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you for coming today. I'll introduce myself in a second. I just want to stipulate that I do understand, or we understand, there is a budget crisis, and it's challenging deciding how to spend the money, and that the Chancellor's office does consider that we need to spend the money wisely and make smart decisions with what we have. My name is Sally Sanger, and I'm one of approximately 600 part-time faculty, including credit and non-credit at Santa Barbara City College. I was hired as temporary part-time in 1982, and I'm still here, temporary part-time, not really temporary, but I'm still a part-time. And most of our classes are taught by part-time faculty at Santa Barbara City College, and as you know, statewide, that's true too. And probably about half, probably more than half, if you include the hardworking non-credit faculty, and which we should include. So of the approximately 2 million students, more than half are taught by our part-time faculty. And keeping that in mind and thinking about the budget, from what I understand, the budget includes $25 million of ongoing money earmarked for 45,000 part-time faculty in the state. And then I understand that there's 20 million of ongoing money earmarked for the Calbright, the online college, with currently 0 students, and I think there's maybe 8 faculty. So $25 million for approximately 2 million students, 45,000 part-time faculty, and then there's almost that amount going to the online college at this time of budget crunch. So, within the vision of success and what's best for our college students, what is the Chancellor's office doing to prioritize a meaningful and significant increase in funding to support our credit and non-credit part-time faculty? And by that I mean pay parity, compensation for office hours or professional development, health insurance, besides also policy, non-budget items. And secondly, because I have hope that you do have a meaningful and significant increase in mind, what is the timeline and approximate dollar amount of the meaningful and significant increase in support for part-time faculty? Thank you.
Thank you. So there was a lot to unpack there, and I will do my best to make sure I unpack all of what was in your question. But let me, first of all, with the question of the investment. So the Board of Governors just adopted their budget. That budget was developed with input from the entire system about its priorities through going out to all of the organizations that are represented on the Consultation Council and then bringing it back to Consultation Council and then the Consultation Council agreeing on what the budget should look like. Understanding that at the end of the day, we live in a Prop 98 environment, which is there is a finite number of dollars that are assigned to community colleges and the K-12 system. Unfortunately, that's become a ceiling, not the floor, so we understand and appreciate that, but that doesn't mean we shouldn't advocate for more resources, which we will. So what does the budget look like? As I mentioned, these are some of the elements, but more importantly, a part of the $16 million in one time is specifically to support part-time faculty, office hours, and other areas of support. There's also $60.4 million in there, and a big chunk of that is for hiring full-time faculty. What we're asking districts like yours is to make sure that they're looking first at their part-time faculty pools to see if there are faculty in that pool that reflect the needs going forward and make sure that we're opening up as much opportunity to the part-time faculty. 2, that we support a budget ask that gives more support to districts to do part-time faculty office hours and other means of support. Now, having said that, the Chancellor's office doesn't provide funding directly to you, to a district, and tells the district what to do with its resources. Districts decide what to do. Districts decide where to place priority. And districts need to decide how they're going to support their part-time faculty. That's not something that the Chancellor's office directly engages in, because our point of view, and really the Constitution's point of view, the way we're organized, is that those decisions are meant to be done locally by the locally elected board members. Having said that, we all need more resources, all the colleges, to better support part-time faculty. Understanding that some of our part-time faculty are there to be part-time. They're working, they're retired, they're providing expertise to the classroom. But then we have a growing situation of faculty like you, who have dedicated their lives and a career to teaching at places like Santa Barbara City College. So we do need to recognize that our teaching academy, full and part-time, needs more support. So the Board of Governors does recognize that. Now, I think it's a false argument to say that we're pitting the new online college against part-time faculty. That's not the case at all. We build colleges every day. The 116th college in Madera will take more resources. But we do that intentionally because we as a state feel that we want to increase access to as many Californians as possible. And Calbright was created to open up more access to a segment of the population that certainly the Chancellor's office feels we weren't serving, but organized labor in many parts of the state felt that they weren't getting access to the California community colleges. So it is not one or the other. It is both. We have to do both. And so we're working with all the faculty organizations to provide advocacy and support for increasing the number of dollars allocated for full-time faculty hire and for part-time faculty support. We have agreed to doing that together. I believe that we will hold that coalition together, and we're going to continue to advocate for those resources. So I'm confident that we will get the resources that are in the budget. I'm confident that the organizations that also represent you, whether that be CFT, CCA, FAC as an organization, will also advocate for more resources for part-time faculty. So that is our position. We're going to work together with them to increase support for all of our part-time faculty. Yes?
Hello, my name is Cornelia Alzheimer. I'm the president of the Faculty Association, and I do have a question, but I also have a comment on just Sally who spoke before me and your response. So I respectfully disagree, but you are telling the colleges what to do with the funding we are getting all the time. All the time, whatever categorical it is, we are told what to do and how to spend the money. Just when it comes to money for part-time faculty, then suddenly it is a local decision. Then there is no extra funds you can allocate for part-time faculty and earmark them specifically. I have a little bit of a problem with this, especially if I personally believe that if you want to do one thing that helps equity, and to help with helping our students is that you make sure that our part-time faculty are paid appropriately, that they have health insurance, and that they don't have to run off after class because they need to teach at 3 colleges at the same time to piece together a living. So this is my point, my add-on to the speaker before. But I also stand here because I'm a teacher and I teach accounting. And that is why I'm here, because I see my program in danger, even though I have solid enrollment. My department has solid enrollment in accounting. So far, a total of $140 million have been allocated for the creation of our new online college, emphasizing, and you said it before in our meeting, the importance of career technical education, CTE for short. And I'm a big supporter of CTE. After all, this is what I teach. And I saw it was included on your vision statement, number 4, and I'm very happy to see that. This said, the student-centered funding formula clearly ranks our CTE students only second-class citizens by paying much lower rates for CTE certificates than, for example, for transfer degrees. This is a double disadvantage, as CTE programs are typically more expensive to run than traditional academic programs. And at the same time, CTE programs provide completers with living wages and the state of California with immediate tax revenue. My students go out and get the employment you are asking for on your vision statement. Mm-hmm. So how come they are valued so much less? Thank you.
So let me try to work backwards, although I know some of those were statements, but if you think about, and you're an accountant, if you look at the total investment in the community colleges over the last at least 5 years, the greatest investment has been in career education. That is an undisputable fact. The greatest investment has been through the Strong Workforce Program, supporting directly the work that we're trying to do at colleges like yours to increase access to career education. So I think the state has spoken. Do we need more investment? Yes. The student-centered funding formula looks at several things. So let's be clear so that everybody's on the same page. 70% of the formula is driven by enrollment. Agreed? 70% of the entire formula is still driven by enrollment. 20% is driven by what we call a supplemental grant, which supports colleges that enroll large numbers of low-income students or Pell students, AB 540 students, College Promise Grant students. So basically, it helps provide more resources to the work that you do to help support our most disadvantaged student populations. So 90% of our formula is driven on those issues. There is also an added incentive, which is at 10% of the funding formula now, that looks at a variety of metrics. One of them is, do your students earn a living wage? The second is 9 units of a career education program. And then there is the issue of the actual credential. What kind of credential are they earning? Yes, there are differences between how the funding formula looks at a transfer student, which in theory takes you longer to get that person to that goal, versus some of our career education. That doesn't mean we value them differently. As a matter of fact, I would argue, and many people have argued to me, that we overvalue career education right now in the community colleges. And so I think, you know, it's not an either-or situation. The fundamental problem is that our system is not funded appropriately across the board. So we're asking districts to make difficult choices. Where do they invest? Because if we're saying that you know, it is much more efficient to offer a general education course than a career education course, that's a fundamental problem across the board. So what we would like to do is be in a position where we can argue that we need more funding for the Strong Workforce Program. We need more funding for the career education program, which is funded outside of the funding formula. It is funded through a categorical grant. So the legislature right now is seriously considering reducing funding for Strong Workforce. So we need to work together to show the numbers that you're talking about, to show the employability, the work that you're doing, to not just keep the funding that we're getting, but to increase the funding in the Strong Workforce Program. Because otherwise, we're giving $100 to local districts, and we're asking them to fulfill $10,000 of need. That's a tough situation to be in for any district. It's unfair for our students. So we need to increase the total amount of funding, both on the apportionment side and the categorical side. So I'm with you on that. I'm 100% with you on that. And we need to do a better job of having data systems that clearly show the economic benefit of programs like yours. We have not done a very good job of that in the system. We have differential outcomes depending on which program. Some programs track their students very well. Allied Health has done a great job of tracking their students. Other programs have not. So the governor's intersegmental data system, I think, will help with that. But we are 100% in line with your concern that career education needs to be funded at a higher level. The way we're approaching that is to increase funding in the Strong Workforce Program. That way, those funds can be specifically dedicated to increasing and providing support for our most expensive career education programs. And your last point, and I know it was a statement, but you know, some of you in this community understand the challenge that students face in this state with for-profit, predatory institutions going after our students, making them promises of getting them good paying jobs. Many people in this room probably don't realize that some of our for-profit institutions are our #1 transfer institution, specifically the University of Phoenix. Takes more students than the University of California and the Cal State system from our colleges. What we're trying to do with Calbright is offer students an additional option, not to take away from your programs, and I wouldn't even call them career CTE programs. They are specifically job acquisition, skill attainment modules, not offering degrees and certificates, but offering specific job skill acquisition opportunities that hopefully will lead them to a place where they will come and take advantage of programs like yours, whether it be accounting or whatever. So that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to pit one against the other. We're trying to create a larger spectrum of options for our students so that the millions of students that are accessing less than quality programs can have an option in the California community colleges. And I know we may disagree on the how, but that is the why. That is truly the why, what we're trying to do. Other questions? Oh, I was hoping for a question on this side of the room. Come on up. And I'm going to try to be respectful of time, so probably take one more question after this.
Can you talk to us about the Vision for Success portal and what you hope to achieve by having all colleges integrated into it?
Yes. So, students are on journeys. Students see our colleges as different stops on that journey. When I was a student, I took courses at 3 colleges: Golden West College, Coastline College, Orange Coast College. And so many of our students, particularly those that live in and around communities that have multiple colleges, access different colleges, and they move around a lot. They move around through the state. So we want to make it as easy as possible for a student to navigate our family of colleges, and for there to be as much consistency in that journey as possible. That doesn't mean that every college is the same flavor. We know that Santa Barbara City College has its own flavor, and we want to keep it that way. I love vanilla, but I don't want every college to be vanilla. But we do want students to be able to access everything that our system offers and be able to navigate that as easy as possible. So that is the hope, that whether it be when they apply to a college, they access information about career education, they access a salary surfer to get information about what a particular career is paying. We want to be able to help direct students more efficiently to the information they're looking for and to the colleges that could provide them with the support they're looking for. So that ultimately is what we're trying to do, understanding that we're a big system. We have a lot of disparate databases and data systems that have not always talked well with each other or have not ever been intended to talk to each other. But we're trying to resolve that and provide as seamless an experience for our students as possible. Who wants to ask the last question? Come on up. Okay, two, but that's it. Okay.
Hi, my name's Ellen Perry. I'm a librarian here.
Hi, Ellen.
I want to thank you, first of all, for speaking out about issues of race and discrimination and bias, and the need for equity work, and for offering your support in that endeavor. As I know you know, our campus has experienced several incidents of overt racism, and many of those of us who have spoken out against these incidents and demanded action from our board and our college administration have been either ignored or labeled as problematic. And we have board members who claim that a voluntary anti-racism training that was highly praised by the faculty and staff who participated was actually not in support of equity and in fact harmful to students. We have board members who voted against our college equity plan because it referred to institutionalized racism, which they believe does not exist here. So in that kind of climate, I would love to hear more about how you're going to work with our board and how you're going to support those of us who are trying to do anti-racism work and meaningful equity work here at SBCC.
Sure. Thank you for that question. I would say that time and momentum are on your side. Anybody in the system who thinks that they could just pay lip service to this issue is going to find themselves constantly confronting the challenges that brings with it. Particularly in an environment that we live in today where issues of race and ethnicity and inclusion are at the center of just about every conversation that's happening in America. Whether you're a supporter or a detractor of the president, I think the one thing that he has done is bring race and ethnicity front and center. We are going to continue to talk about this issue. We're going to continue to work with the organizations that represent the boards of trustees, particularly the League, the Community College League of California and the Community College Trustees Association. We're going to keep putting this in front of them. The Board of Governors is going to continue to challenge boards throughout the state to deal with this issue. We're going to work with the legislature, in particular the two committees in the legislature that deal with higher education. We know that they are very supportive of having very direct conversations about what we mean by race, diversity, and inclusion. I know that they have on their agenda how to promote and encourage diverse hiring. And I'm going to speak about it everywhere I go. And that will irritate a lot of people. But my hope is that by bringing this to every conversation on every college campus, that we give a little bit more room to faculty and staff who actually want to confront this. Now look, I say that, at the same time, we all have to acknowledge that it's not going to make it easier to confront this. Racism is not something that changes overnight. But you can only begin to address it if you acknowledge it. If you acknowledge that it is part of our DNA, we have all been affected by it in one way or another. And so there may be some of my colleagues in the system who feel that it is not important enough. We're going to continue to try and convince them that it is important. And we're going to certainly give cover and support to the students and the faculty and the staff that want to raise this. But that's not going to make it any easier for you. It's still going to be an uphill climb. You're still going to have some folks in our system who want to say, no, we're not going to deal with this. But we're going to keep pressing. And I can tell you, the Board of Governors has this at the top of their list. You know, I may or may not survive tomorrow or 5 years from now, but the Board of Governors is going to continue to press this. So I'm confident that it is becoming part of the expectation of our system. And I'm going to do everything possible to make it part of our system's conversation, as difficult as it is. And it will be difficult. And you won't see change overnight. But you can only begin to change if you start taking steps forward and acknowledge that there's a problem. Clearly, you all have seen that there's a problem. Whichever way you come to this, there's a problem that has been underground for a while in this community that now is being surfaced and is for the betterment of our students' future and this community's future that we begin to have a serious conversation about it. And we will take steps to improve the hiring process, to do things that we can do through regulation or law. But ultimately, this is a people issue. You all have to wrestle with this in your own way. I can't tell Santa Barbara City College how to wrestle with this. All I can tell you is that it's important that you wrestle with this. And you will find over time that it was a worthwhile, difficult conversation. So thank you for that question. And thank you all for being here. I do have one last thank you that I want to leave behind. And just as a small token of our appreciation, because I know coming to our campus upends everybody's schedule, I just want to present Dr. Benjamin with a certificate of recognition and gratitude to Santa Barbara City College for allowing us to be here and for participating in the 2019 Vision for Success Listening Tour. Thank you, Helen, for the welcome and for all you did and your entire team. And we look forward to talking to your new superintendent president, which I have his email now, so I will be in conversations to see how we can support going forward. So thank you all for the opportunity to be here, and thank you, Helen, for the warm welcome.